Today I'm going to show you how to make an ABR brush in Adobe Photoshop. This is Photoshop's standard brush type, but Corel Painter 2016 has now adopted this brush type as well, meaning that you can now use all of your old Photoshop brushes in Corel Painter, which is absolutely fantastic. It now opens up all those old brushes and all the brushes that you had before and allows you to use them in Painter. So it's absolutely fantastic for everybody who uses both programs like myself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to create a brush in Photoshop, an ABR brush, and use it all the way through, take it all the way through into Painter. I'm going to show you how to create one of my favorite types of ABR brush, a cloud brush. I find this useful in photo retouching as well as concept art as well. Now, this type of brush is absolutely great because it's made from a photograph. You can go online and find a photo, or you can do what I did, which is simply to take your phone, be it an iPhone, be it a different brand of phone, and go outside and simply hold up your phone and take a photo. And that's all you have to do. One thing is, just make sure that the cloud you're taking a photo of isn't touching any other clouds. All you want is a tiny little cloud that's sat on its own in the blue sky. And no matter where you live, that shouldn't be too hard to find. I live in sunny old England. So, yeah. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. You can see here that I've already got my image open and I've got my cloud here. It's nice and small in the middle. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my marquee tool, my crop tool maybe, and crop inwards. So I'm going to just use my marquee tool and hold down Shift and just grab a nice square area around the cloud. It doesn't have to be square, but it's best for the brush. So I've used the marquee tool and I'm just going to go to the image resize here. There we go, that looks great. And I'm just going to make sure that it's 2500. And I'm going to use the on-screen keyboard here. As you can see, that's 2500 and that's square. And I'm leaving that at 72 dpi. And that's 2500. And that's the old size for the old maximum size for a brush in Photoshop. You can go higher nowadays, but that's the size. And I'll leave it as that because if I share this brush amongst users of Photoshop CS5 or CS4, I think that's the maximum size of a brush for that. In CC, you can go up to 3,000, 5,000 maybe. So yeah, for right now, I'll just leave it at 2,500. Now I've made it mono, and I'm going to go up to curves in the adjustments. It's very grey and white at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the curves and I'm going to make it a bit more high contrast. So I'm going to play with this. As you can see, there we go. And that's looking a lot better straight away, but I can still do better, and that's absolutely great. But the last thing I want to do is get rid of too much detail here. It's a little too stark at the moment. I am losing too much detail, so I'll cancel out that for now. Now I'll try auto contrast. Nope, no good. So I'm going to try levels instead. There we go. You can see automatically levels gives me a little more control, and it gives me the ability to keep some of that detail inside the cloud. What I want to do is I want to make sure that the image is black all the way around the border, which is now starting to look absolutely great. And the edge of the cloud, which is the most important bit here, is still looking really good. Okay, this is coming along nicely, but you can see I'm just tweaking these values very carefully here and very specifically. So, okay, that's good enough for now. What I want to do is just double click the background layer and take the lock off of it. And I want to grab a black brush and just go around the edge and just make sure that everything around the edge is black. And the reason I'm doing that is when I capture the brush, I don't want any annoying light fringes being captured on the brush. So I'm just going to go around the edge and just make sure there's no white speckles or grey speckles. I want all of the edge to be completely black so that I'm only capturing the cloud itself. Okay, next thing, I just want to invert the image quickly. There we go. That looks absolutely great. The image looked a bit harsh before, but you notice now that I invert it, it doesn't look as harsh, and you can see a lot of the detail from the cloud, and it looks a lot softer now again. What I want to do now is just free transform this layer and just bring the cloud a bit closer to the image just to maximize the brush size, because it's still 2500 pixels, but I'm just bringing the edge of the cloud closer to the canvas edges. So I'm going to go up to Edit, Define Brush Preset, and I can name it. Obviously I don't want to give it the name that the camera named the file, so I'm going to name it Cloud Brush 05 and Lawrence Man. There we go. Now you see, it did happen to pick up a lot of extra fuzz, but you can see the brush does work, and it works quite well, but it's picked up a lot of extra little fuzz along the way. There's too much overspill. It's okay though, I'm going to go back a step. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete it. I'm going to go back to my original image. Here we go. I'll just go and grab a normal brush again. Well, these little things happen, don't they? And it's going to be a bit of trial and error when you create a brush. And I could have cut this bit of the video out, but I wanted to show you what happens when it goes wrong and why exactly we go around the edges. So I thought I'd leave this in. Again, even though we've inverted the image and we've gone so far down the road, all I have to do now is go around the edge with a white brush and just make sure that we've got the image nicely with the edge crafted, and just use the selection tool and just see if that picks up anything. So I'll just define the brush again and give it another try. Okay, so I've got to name my brush again. Cloud Brush. We'll name it 06. Lawrence Man. Give it a try and see if it works this time for us. Okay, so we've still got some overspill. But you can see the overspill doesn't really come out on the brush. So this is usable, but still we want to do it properly and we want to do it professionally. So again, I'm going to make sure that, you know, we get this done properly. I'm going to grab this layer and I'm going to go into the levels, and I'm really going to tough this out, so to speak, and I'm going to bring this in from kind of both sides here. Buzz the harshness on this just to make sure. And you can see some of the particles showing up now. So I'm going to grab my white brush, get rid of these particles and make sure they're not showing at all. Use a smaller brush and just come around the edge here just to get rid of those and make absolutely sure that they are obliterated from our canvas. There we go. Nice and easily. And that's starting to look good. And we can clean them up. Yeah, that's looking a lot better. I'm even going on to areas where I know there's nothing, but better safe than sorry. Brilliant. Okay, let's make the brush again. So edit, define brush preset, and again we have to name the brush. So cloud brush, this time we're going to call it 07. We can delete the previous brushes that weren't any good, number 5 and number 6. I've made lots of brushes before, so cloud brush 1, 2, 3 and 4 are completely different brushes that I've made in the past. But there we go. There we have it. That is our perfect cloud brush. Now you may see some other bits and bats there, free floating ones, but they're absolutely fine. They may add a little nice detail here and there, but this is absolutely fine. It works perfectly, as you can see. That's really nice. And we can test this out by trying it on a nice colour background. Here we go. So why don't I put the black background in and use a white cloud. There we go. That's lovely. So automatically you can imagine this being dotted all over. If we play with some of the presets as well, we can get an absolutely great brush. There we go. Just play with the opacity a bit. And I can fill the entire sky with clouds. That was nice and quick. We didn't have any mess. If I had pictures of a few different clouds, you know, we can make several different brushes very, very quickly. You know, that was under 10 minutes. And we've got a beautiful, beautiful, accurate cloud brush. You can see how simple it is to make these brushes. But not just of clouds, you could do grass, you could do a hedge brush, you could do wood texture. On my Instagram, I'm always putting up lovely texture photos that I'm happy to share with you, and you know, just nice bits of material. So feel free to come on there, share your texture photos with me, and then, you know, just take those, turn them into brushes. And also on Pinterest, I also put up some great photos as well. Come and have a look. There's lots of images on Google as well that you can use for reference, but taking photos on your own phone always gives you reference photos that nobody else will ever have that you can make brushes out of. Now I'm going to come back into Photoshop, find my preset manager, scroll down. Here's my last brush. There we go. I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to click Save Set. Now I know this is only one brush, but I could click on multiple brushes, but this is the only one I want. So I'm going to click this and click Save Set. There we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop it in a folder that I already know. There we go. And I'll name the set something interesting. Like, I don't know, Cloud 7. Brilliant, let's move on. Okay, so that's the first stage done, and you've seen how really, really easy that was. It wasn't hard at all. So the next stage that we've got to move on to now is simply to get that up and running and move it across to Corel Painter 2016. Now, it must be Corel Painter 2016 simply because earlier versions of Corel Painter, it won't work in at all. It's just, no. It's a new feature added to Corel Painter. There are many new features, but this one in particular is one that I'm very, very excited about. Corel Painter 2015 had some absolutely amazing features, but unfortunately, this will only work in 2016's edition. So, when you're ready, let's get cracking. Okay, so we've created the ABR brush now in Photoshop, and as you can see, we've got Painter open now on the Wacom Cintiq 27Q HD Touch. So, all we have to do now is import it and edit some of the settings. Let's get started. So what I do is I open up my file menu in my brush menu. I go down to import, but I go to new from Photoshop brush stamps, ABR. ABR obviously being Photoshop's normal brush type. So I go to the place where I saved my brush from Photoshop. This is Photoshop's filing system. This time we're using the one we made ourselves here, so okay. This is the one we called Cloud 7. Yep, so here we go. So I'm just gonna carry on calling it Cloud 7 for now. I can rename it later on if I want. So okay, here we go. I've got my brush back and I'm gonna move it on to my own category here. We can give it a test as it stands. I'm gonna leave all the presets just as they are, and it looks horrendous. Yep, it looks absolutely rubbish, but that's as I expected. Obviously, Corel Painter has lots and lots and lots of brush presets, and it's just left this as a basic standard brush. So I'm just going to move these palettes, and I'm just going to grab my spacing and move it apart so you can see the stamp as it stands. Okay, so that's our cloud. And that's a bit more as it looked in Photoshop. Let's go for a larger size brush. Okay, so yep, it's looking exactly as I expected now. Just to make sure though, it does look like how we had it in Photoshop. So why don't I fill the canvas black, use the white brush, there we go, and have a nice true test. There we go, so we've got a white cloud on a black background. I'll move the opacity back up to 100. There we go, that's perfect. That looks exactly how we had it in Photoshop, and you can see it's identical. Corel Painter has a lot more settings, so what I'm going to do is we're going to have a play with some of these settings now. We can have a play with some of these settings now and make our brush even better in Painter than perhaps it was in Photoshop, or we can have a basic play and, you know, at least make this brush pretty amazing. So okay, we can play with the size jitter, the opacity jitter, there we go. You know, so to make this brush really useful. So we can play with the angle, there we go, that's really strange and not at all as you'd use it for clouds, but perhaps if we'd have made a grass brush. So that's quite cool if we'd have made a chain brush perhaps, or maybe a tire tread, something like that. But you can see the variations that this has given us and why making an ABR brush, bringing something across from Photoshop may be kind of useful, you know, and that's kind of cool as well. But for right now, I want to keep this as a cloud brush, so let's concentrate on that. I just thought I'd show you quickly how and why editing the settings like that might be useful. Okay, I'm going to change the background again, go with a nice blue because this is the sky and we have a cloud. There we go, that's lovely. So you can see now and again we've got a nice opacity level on the cloud and it works really well. So let's look at the squeeze on the angle. Play with a few of the settings here. I'm speeding this up now just to show you as I play with the settings, and we get a few different unique things that I'm trying to find exactly how to make this cloud brush a little different and a little right. I'm obviously playing with the bearings, the rotate, the pen pressure, etc. as I go because I'm working on the Wacom Cintiq 27 QHD Touch, which is pretty amazing, and having the stylus and the pen pressures and the rotations on my stylus, you know, give me, as you can see, some weird and wonderful movements and flows to have some really accurate things going on here, some really fluid and dynamic things going on with my cloud brush. And that really comes across really nicely when doing randomized clouds as well. And that looks really nice. Okay, so there you have it. You can see just how easy it is to create a Photoshop ABR brush and transport it across to Corel Painter 2016. It's really, really simple. It couldn't be easier. And with the great help of a Wacom Cintiq, it's marvelous fun to do. Any old brushes you've got, you can transport straight across, and you can just go back and create loads and loads more. Okay, so there you have it. It was pretty simple and it wasn't that much hard work. You can see how, by creating the cloud there, that you can create pretty much anything. And over the years I've done hundreds of brushes out of hundreds of different objects. Many of them I've drawn by hand rather than using photographs, but photographs are a great way to get softer textures in there. Now that we can move objects from Photoshop across to Corel Painter, this is game changing in terms of time saving. So I hope you enjoyed that tutorial, and I hope you come back for more. Thanks for watching, and be sure to comment, like and even subscribe to my channel, Lawrence Can Draw. And if you did like what you saw here, you can see more of it on my website, lawrenceman.co.uk.